looking at my backdrop and noticing this Wisconsin helmet in the range of the USC helmet territory reminds me that Jim Leonhard is on the market. I know just as of a few hours ago, he was interviewing with the Philadelphia Eagles. It appears as though the Green Bay Packers have passed him by, but you would think that based on not that USC is not an upgrade from Wisconsin, but having been at Wisconsin for as long as he was, that there was a disappointment. I'm sure that he was not elevated to the head coaching position after the interim um, audition, and that really the only way up for him would be a head coaching position at the collegiate level or to get an NFL defensive coordinator role. But I guess it wouldn't hurt if USC gave it a shot.
I've written about it. I've mentioned
have
it,
you? Yeah.
months ago. I wrote about it in December. Like, if ever there was a time to make a run at somebody, and I made the specific point that, firing Alex Grinch is not a plan. All right. Just saying fire Grinch as though getting rid of him solves your problem. No, that's not a plan. You have to have everything lined up for a replacement, and not just any old replacement, but an elite replacement. And Jim Leonhard would be an elite replacement. The person with whom I did the Riley Files, that 12-part podcast series last summer, he tweeted, late in the college football season, when Jim Leonhard was not retained by Wisconsin and Luke Fickell got the job, and then it became clear that Leonhard was not going to be on Fickell's staff as defensive coordinator. Our Riley Files correspondent said, "Oh no, please, Jim Leonhard, don't go to Los Angeles. Please, no." So that right there, just one small glimpse of, what a Jim Leonhard, Lincoln Riley marriage could look like. Like I'm thinking like that's national title material right there. That is the on-ramp to having, like a Lincoln Riley offense and an Iowa, Wisconsin, for, elite defense. You get the best of both worlds. Like that is what USC should be pursuing. But Lincoln Riley is definitely intent on running it back with Alex Grinch one more year. And one would think that, if it doesn't work out this year, that should give Lincoln Riley more than enough reason to cut the cord and start fresh and really go bigger at defensive coordinator.
The defense was deplorable 2 years ago in 2021. There were significant upgrades, not to anything that we should have expected in elite defense or even a really good defense, but there were enough pieces in certain areas, Eric Gentry and others, that you would have thought that it would have been a top 60, 70 defense, something in that range. Number 124 in yards per play. I don't remember the other standard metrics, but the yards per play sticks in my head at number 124. Sure, Jim Leonhard would not be working with an elite defense like he would be facing in practice on the offensive side, but you would think a guy that is as accomplished as he is would be able to mix and match and figure things out to make it a capable defense.
Yeah, you would think, because, if you're an elite coach, especially if you have the tactical acumen that Lincoln Riley does, like your job is understanding how defenses work so that you can crack the code, and figure out how to break them down. So like that should give you an understanding of what a good defense looks like. And that is kind of the puzzling part about Lincoln Riley, is it not? That he makes a living, dissecting defenses, and that involves an appreciation of what makes defenses good, what makes defenses fail, and yet he's retaining Alex Grinch. Now, and again, like we've gone through this argument or this conversation so many times that, like, Grinch didn't have the dudes, didn't have the personnel, didn't have the depth. We get it. But, and this is the thing that I return to, and a lot of USC fans have returned to. Don't you want the best? Don't you want the very best? Don't you want excellence rather than just being okay or decent? Let's just give up 30 points a game, which would have been great against Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. It would have been great in a few of other games from the past season. But like, that shouldn't be your standard at USC. You shouldn't be settling. You should be going for the very top, creme de la creme, why settle? And I mean, I don't think Alex Grinch is bad, but that's the wrong focus. Is Alex Grinch elite? And of course he's not elite. So why don't you go for elite? That is the mystery for myself and for a lot of USC fans in terms of Lincoln Riley's in many minds misplaced sense of loyalty, that he should be loyalty to USC, which is giving him this great opportunity. He's paid to win national championships. He's paid to be at the very top of the sport. And he did overachieve in year one, but just why don't you get the very best guys surrounding you? Like why wouldn't you ever do that? Dabo Swinney, he got Brent Venables and he rose to the top. Like, so Brent Venables, an elite defensive coordinator. We don't know about him as a head coach, separate conversation. But in terms of defensive coordinator, like, that's as good as it gets. And why wouldn't you get someone who's at the very top of his profession? So that's just the ongoing and very familiar Alex Grinch storyline that we're going to be hearing about throughout the offseason and on into late August and early September when the season begins.
If there's anybody in the sport outside of Nick Saban who could be resting on his laurels, it would be Dabo Swinney. And especially leading into this offseason, he was a pretty risk-averse, I don't rock the boat, change out. Guys have had to leave as coordinators, Brent Venables, Tony Elliott, to get head coaching positions. Otherwise, he's just stayed pat with his staff. And they still won the ACC championship. They still, I know that it's been a downgrade, but still, they're some coaches would have stayed in that same position and just said, we're good, we'll be fine. But no, he recognized an issue and went out and got the best on the market. Not even on the market. He took him from another team.
Yes, that's right. Yes, and that's the other thing, right? That, like, who says you have to get a free agent? You can just get someone who's in a position at another school, and you convince them of the offer. I mean, that's what Mike Bohn did, bringing Lincoln Riley aboard. That he's at Oklahoma. Few people thought that he was on the market. A lot of people felt before Lincoln Riley went to USC that the only job Lincoln Riley is going to leave Oklahoma for is the Dallas Cowboys. Like that's the only kind of job with the prestige and the visibility and the career transforming capability. That's the only kind of job you might ever leave the University of Oklahoma for, especially when you're doing well at Oklahoma, as Lincoln Riley was. But Mike Bohn, he was thinking differently. So that exactly reinforces the point that, like, you don't have to make the conventional move. In fact, you shouldn't. Like, if you're not thinking really strategically, if you're not thinking deeply about the chessboard and what's attainable, and also it's Mike Bohn's move, getting Lincoln Riley, it underscores this point. It never hurts to ask. It never hurts to make a run at a guy that, in the conventional wisdom is viewed to be off limits. You can't hurt yourself by making the attempt, by making the effort. The worst that can happen is the candidate will say no. But if you never make a run at that candidate, you won't know, and you won't get, and you certainly won't get him. And Mike Bohn had the boldness and the vision to be able to pursue that line. So that also underscores the point that you can unearth something in terms of coaching searches if you are intent and you have a vision and you have a plan and you have the resources, as USC, of course, does, to make something possible. So yeah, like we shouldn't be limiting ourselves in terms of what's possible and what's attainable at USC.